Hello, everybody. Let's try this again. Welcome to RWBY Nation's first live discussion stream. We're going to be doing these instead of the podcast. Had a bit of technical difficulties because I forgot to hit a button. So, first time, yes, I had it muted, and I thought I had unmuted it. My bad. But anyways, so, you guys didn't hear anything about what we were talking about, but we're going to restart. I am Admin Watts of RWBY Nation, and today I'm joined by Admin Cinder.
Hey guys.
Admin Oscar.
Hello.
And Admin Whitley.
Color of this room is terrible. The SEC could do this much better.
Probably. But today we are going to be talking about Volume 5, Episode 1, Welcome to Haven. And we're going to start off by getting everyone's first impressions of the episode and what they think this means for the volume going forward. And I'm going to start with Admin Cinder on this.
Well, I thought it was amazing. I mean, obviously, seeing that RTX was amazing. And I'm loving how they're basically just trying to bring everyone back together pretty much instantly, other than Blake, obviously. He's just sitting around at Menagerie. Hopefully, in the future, would hear more about Yang and Raven and the other guy from the bar who she met up with. That'd be pretty funny. I don't really know what else to say about it in the moment.
Oscar?
The beginning, I was impressed. The ending, I was really impressed. I was happy that they're bringing everybody back together in different ways. Like, I was expecting them all to just somehow join back up, pretty much. And now each of them is getting a different story as to how they're getting back together. And I really like that.
Okay. And what about you, Whitley?
Hesitant, but optimistic. I thought there were some flaws in this episode, but I think that it gave me, there were interesting hooks, and I want to see how each one of those develops, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about certain sections in detail.
Okay. Well, I think my first impressions would be, obviously the animation quality has definitely been boosted over the previous volumes. As expected, every season always gets better with RWBY. The biggest, I guess, things that jumped out at me immediately were not only just is everything looking better, but everything feels like it's more on an uptick swing this time. I remember watching one of the podcasts that they did talking about RWBY and how Volume 4 was basically a sort of recollecting yourself and building yourself up, whereas Volume 5 is going to be, now that you've built yourself up, you have to push forward and move forward now that you have regained your strength. And I'm looking forward to how that is going to play out in the rest of the volume for both the heroes, and I'm also excited about more of where the villains are headed in this volume, as it's obviously a much bigger premise than Volume 4 and the previous volumes before that, because the villains are much bigger, much badder, and are probably a whole lot worse than we've ever seen in previous volumes. So it's always interesting to me, the villain side of the story, and I may be a little bit biased there, but oh well.
It's good to hear your voice again.
Yeah. God, I am so excited to see the Watts' character develop and everything, because I want him to be cool. I want my tag to like have some meaning behind it, because when I chose him before, it was I like him because he has an awesome mustache, and now
he made the Black Pawn virus thing.
Yeah,
he's a cool dude.
So the more we learn about Watts and the other villains, the more I am happy about it. But we're gonna start talking about the episode as a whole, go through basically what happened in each scene, basically, and just get everyone's thoughts when they saw it, what was going through their head, and anything that they may have thought of, or any theories or anything will be held a little bit towards the end of this. This one is mostly just what did you notice? Is there anything specific you want to talk about that you may have noticed that other people didn't? And so the starting scene for Welcome to Haven, we've got Crow leading Team Ranger into Mistral, more specifically Haven Academy, and it's very cool looking. We saw the very ending of the Volume 4 scene where it shows Mistral in its hole, and it was one of the coolest scenes I've seen. But now that we're actually inside of Mistral, I want to know what you guys think of the overall aesthetic and how this is going to play into the team moving forward, not only in fights but also the story as well.
Well, you could definitely tell, obviously, just by looking at it, it's a different part of the world. Because, I mean, other than the fact that we've been walking all of Volume 4 to get there, but it's because all the buildings was pretty much completely different to what we've seen before, which I think is amazing, that they're going for more different art styles than just here's a house type of thing. And obviously because it's all mountain based, you'd think it'd be a little more sneaky they have to walk around and stuff, because it'd be kind of hard to run and gun through the city when it's all bridges and tall stuff.
The architecture is definitely really interesting with the city. I got vibes of one of the cities in Elder Scrolls, where it's like they have the lower castes on the lower portions, and the higher up you go, the more what am I looking for here? The more, not affluent, but the better off you are. Like I think we already saw
a class system.
Nobility.
Yeah, more nobilities at the higher levels, and I think that's like we got hints of that when we talked about Mistral in the Remnant little chapters.
Right.
We already knew it was already kind of like this city with a little bit of a crime portion to it. But I think it's just interesting that they put the academy all the way at the top. So that's going to be kind of an interesting idea of like, are hunters looked upon fondly in this kind of place, or are they thought of as kind of just like the nobility class?
Okay. Oscar, do you have any thoughts?
I loved the architecture. I'm an architecture nerd. I love architecture.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, buildings.
So like I loved the architecture. It kind of felt like almost like you were sent back in time almost. And I really liked that.
It does have that very traditional Eastern type of architecture from like Eastern Asia, China, Japanese, very influenced by that type of architecture, I feel.
Yes.
Definitely prevalent. What do you think it's going to do to the team overall now that they're most likely going to be stationed here for the rest of the volume?
I think it might cause some issues for them for like the fighting wise, because they have no idea where they are, and obviously if Watts has been there for a while, and obviously Lionheart's the headmaster, they'll probably both know their way around. So that could be an advantage for the baddies right there.
Well, moving a little bit ahead to a bit of not too far forward. What was up?
I just wanted to talk about the one thing that I thought was kind of weird about this. So when they cut to all the art of people just walking around the streets,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I see the budget wasn't put into background characters this time.
It gave me sort of like a World of Remnant feel when they did that. At least it wasn't shadow people.
Oh yeah, no.
It's just a bunch of black figures. Like, hey guys.
I'm of two minds of it, because I like it because it's like, okay, we're not gonna expect. I'm in the so I feel like they're not putting the budget in background people this time. They're putting it more on the animation. But I felt the other reason I didn't like it was because it's like, well, before you had like the streets filled with people walking around. What does that say about like, are you just not doing it because you don't want to make additional animated character models? What's the reasoning behind this?
Okay. I don't have a perfect answer for that, but as from what I know about animation and like that whole world of things, because I mean I do dabble in some of that every now and then, but even with the team that Rooster Teeth has, to design and animate that many characters is not the easiest thing for Maya and After Effects, which are the programs that they are using. To have that many at least moving animations in one scene would have probably been a bit taxing on the system. The closest, I think the maximum that they can probably do is when they show scenes like in Menagerie, where they're showing all of the people, but there are still key instances in that where it's like, if you look really closely, a lot of those characters may be fully modeled and everything, but they do sort of copy a few things over to multiple characters at the same time, and some of them don't actually move at all. So
Yeah,
they sort of hide some things.
It was a little jarring to me. It was just like, because I remember back to season 1 when RWBY became 2D chibi animation for like a second. I was like, that pulled me out for a second. And I understand the reason.
Yang was
why.
standing there as well in that.
Yeah, with the Yang standing there, and I just thought it was a weird cut, but I think it was better than back then. So I'm okay with it. It was just a little jarring. I do hope they keep doing that though. That'll make me feel more. It will acclimatize me to it more.
Do you think it was more of a animation limitation or more of an artistic style that they actually wanted to go for?
I think it would probably be more artistic, because like you're not wasting your budget on modeling all these things that we said before, but you're still creating the sense, and you're using kind of like that art style to give more of a feeling of what the city's like.
I mean, keep in mind they've only had 8 months to make it, if they've made it from the straight end of Volume 4, and that's with Red vs Blue, Chibi, Genlock that's coming out soon, stuff like that. So they probably just thought it'd be easier to just get pictures of them and then just be like, here's all the people.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, going a little bit forward now, the team has gotten to Haven Academy, and they are planning on meeting with Professor Lionheart, and the sort of introductions between the two are probably not as expected, but I think it was probably the best way that they could have introduced Lionheart as a character. But we get Crow feeling something is just off, and he bursts through Lionheart's door, startling both of them to where they both end up on the ground. And this scene altogether sort of just introduces you to the fact that Lionheart is not the bravest of people, and everyone has sort of obviously made the connection. Lionheart, of relating back to older fairy tales, is the cowardly lion from the Wizard of Oz tale, which fits because we've got Oz, we've got the Tin Man being what everyone knows as Ironwood, Crow as Scarecrow, and others as well. We still haven't seen Dorothy. There's still things up in the air about that may be the leader of Shade.
Actually, I heard a really interesting kind of idea from someone during the VPs. By the way, you can drop a visitor post on our page, RWBY Nation, on Facebook, and we'll comment on it. They put out an idea that maybe Oscar is Dorothy.
I also saw that as well. I'm not for sure. Oh yeah, Glenda Goodwitch is another one. But I did see that theory as well, and until we see a little bit more going forward, I'm not sure how plausible. I mean, there are things that connect them for sure, but I guess we'll just have to see moving forward if that is the direction that they're going to take Oscar's character in. But I'm curious, what were your first impressions about Lionheart after the sort of introductory scene of him?
Deceptive.
I think he's just brilliant. A brilliant start to character. Obviously, we're just starting to get known.
Yeah, I'm glad you said brilliant start to a character, because to me, Brilliant and Lionheart did not the best match.
I don't know. I just my thought.
I thought he should have won an Oscar for his performance.
God damn it! Somebody in the chat says untrustworthy.
Okay.
Which
Deceptive.
is... There was definitely something about him.
Like, obviously, the number one thing I think everyone relates to him is he's a coward, but he's supposed to be, because he just lets people walk all over him, like Watts.
And maybe Crow as well.
And probably Crow. Actually,
How
yeah,
did he
definitely
become
Crow.
a headmaster? Is my question.
I see. That's where I'm not so sure about him. It's like he used to. I don't know if he's that terrified of Salem that he's just lost all sense of what he used to be. Because I mean, to be one of Ozpin's main trustworthy guys and to end up in the situation that he's in, it's like you have to think something happened to him that changed everything.
Or they
Curious
have
if
something
they're
on
ever
him.
gonna go more into that.
Well, they have to. He's a major crux of like, is he going to continue to betray them, or is he going to man up and like actually tell them what's going on?
Well, odds are we will definitely be seeing more of Lionheart moving forward, especially with Watts as well. Those two sort of seem to be conjoined right now, so we'll see where that goes in the future. But moving again a little bit ahead, we learn a little bit of information from Crow as he's talking to Lionheart about where the Spring Maiden is, and he tells him that his sister Raven has the Spring Maiden. And this is a very important key information piece for Lionheart, as he had no clue where the Spring Maiden is, and the only way to obtain the relic is the Spring, or just a maiden has to be the one to unlock the door for the relic.
Okay, I found that to be a super interesting plot point, because one of my big pet peeves of RWBY is the MacGuffin syndrome. We have like 8 different MacGuffins now, and now that we've kind of related it to like one's a lock and one's a key, it kind of makes more sense to me.
I mean, did they say it's one maiden for one door,
Yes.
or is it?
Yes, they did.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
They
each one has
didn't
a specific
specify
unlock.
who was for which lock, but they did say each maiden has a specific relic.
I
Well,
thought say
actually, I think they did actually.
They
Yeah,
did.
they did
One was
exactly
like,
which one. Summer is destruction, winter is creation, and the other 2 are whatever else is left.
Right, I forgot
think
that they did
one's
mention that, but we
knowledge
don't
and
know
love.
which relic is where.
Yeah, we don't know that.
I mean, if you really like just want to read between the lines of what they said there, you could probably figure it out. But
You can at
if
least figure out
just,
two
that's
of
also
them.
just a theory. I'm assuming destruction would be Vacuo.
Yeah.
Which one was Destruction? That had the maiden
That's Summer, wasn't it?
Summer?
Yep.
Okay. So the 2 we are not very sure about are Summer and Winter, because we know Fall is Cinder now, and
Yep.
Spring is most likely the one to open up the one in Mistral, whereas I would assume since they got Cinder being the Fall Maiden first, Vale probably had the one linked to her. For some reason, they still can't find it, though, as there's also theories about that, about it being in the cane of Ozpin and things like that, but we'll see going forward. But with the information about the Spring Maiden being with Raven's tribe, that sort of sets Lionheart off, and he wants to go after her, but he tells Crow that he can't do it immediately, probably for multiple reasons, as we find out shortly afterwards that Watts was listening in the whole time, and we see
Watts,
his
how
little
could you?
symbol pop up after Ranger and Crow have already left the room. But Leonhardt basically duped them the entire time, and sort of Watts was sort of pulling the strings a little bit, but odds are Lionheart and Watts and Salem's team are probably going to be trying to go after the Spring Maiden first, as he told Crow that they wouldn't be able to do anything for weeks to come at that point. Whereas Crow was like, we have to go now, but Lionheart being Lionheart and the giant coward he is not going to do something like that.
To be fair, he did make some good arguments.
True.
He made some great arguments.
He did definitely make some good arguments in his favor, but the question is, how truthful were those arguments?
I mean, it is kind of hard to go and get arguably one of the most powerful people in the world with just a kid, 4 kids and 2 adults. So, even with the Silver Eyes powers, whatever that is.
Right, we still don't have a whole
still
lot
don't
of
have a clue what
information
that
on
is.
that.
We also have the issue of all the other hunters who are being trained at the school are all over Mistral right now, just like defending their borders. Because we did get the information that the broadcast was shown around the whole of Remnant, and everyone has seen the disaster, which caused an uptick in Grim activity.
And that's what caused the Atlas borders to be shut as well.
Yeah.
An embargo.
Ironwood, please! I need Iron Daddy. Don't close the borders.
Ironwood's got his whole own agenda. Who knows what'll happen with all of that. But going into sort of the next scene, I think we're jumping back just a little bit as these scenes were sort of split up a little. But we also had a scene with Blake and Ilya.
I think
And-
you missed the Weiss beginning scene. In the
No,
plane.
I think that's afterward.
I think
No, it was-
that was a little afterwards, because I've got the screenshots pulled up, and I think Weiss's
Okay, never mind.
was... Well, no, I actually don't have a screenshot for the
No,
Weiss
Weiss.
section.
It seems like Weiss is way in like the end. It's
There was
the
like
second
a
last
30
scene.
seconds bit, and then it moved back to here's Lionheart.
Okay.
Yeah, Weiss is the last scene. I'm
So it's
looking
not
at
really a
right now.
lot. They was just
Oh.
flying over with
Yeah,
Well, we
I'm
met the
seeing it
pilot
over
and that was
here
it.
on the summary of the
Yeah.
episode now. But yeah, Weiss is still on her flight to Mistral with the pilot who picked her up at the end of Volume 4. But they are on their way to Mistral, and they hear a distress call over the radio, and Weiss asked why they don't plan on helping them. And the pilot's basically just looking out for himself, just trying to get from point A to point B, which in this type of world, I mean, it's sometimes what you have to do. You can't save everybody. When you stick your neck out against the Grim, like, you don't know what's going to happen. You're more likely to end up dead than successful in that situation. So, I mean, I can honestly side with the pilot in that situation. Like, you're carrying cargo, you just want to get home, get to your family, and be done with it. You don't want to try and be a hero in this situation, whereas Weiss is used to trying to be the hero, as what happened with It Beacon, and after she left her father, she left because she didn't want to be a prisoner anymore. She's going off and doing this thing, wanting to get back with her team and Winter and everyone, but she is still very much a hero at heart. She's a huntress. So you can definitely see like the frustration in her expression during this whole scene, but she understands it's like it's out of her hands at this point. So odds are we'll see how that sort of plays out in episode 2. But we'll get to see sort of just what happens with all of that. I know in the intro scene it looks like there's some interesting things that happen on that flight, so we'll definitely get to see more of that. Odds are she'll probably be at Mistral within the next couple of episodes. As they said, they're close, but they're not quite there yet, as they have to get to the shoreline or whatever. But I'm curious, what do you guys think is going to happen to Weiss in the next episode?
I'm not going to say anything because I've seen the next episode, so I don't
Yeah,
really-
exactly. I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
understandable.
We've already
Alright,
seen
so
it.
We'll
Jeez, you
leave,
guys,
we'll
you
leave
need
that,
first
that up in
memberships.
the air at that point then. So we'll just have to wait until next week to see.
As a YouTube only person, I think she makes it and lands safely.
Okay. I still
Fair
don't.
enough.
I do want to have a conversation with the people who are YouTube only people at some point and just ask them why.
Money?
You can get a free Rooster Teeth account.
Yeah, but also...
Like, money is literally not an argument.
Oh, okay.
It is.
We're
totally
already
an
arguing
argument.
over something. Oh god. First podcast and we're already...
All
Oh
right.
my god.
We'll move forward a little bit. Back to the conversation between Blake and Ilya. We find out a little bit. We don't find out a whole lot, but we get this sort of interesting dialogue between the two as Ilya is basically telling Blake that her plan to take back Menagerie will not work. As
What?
she is sort of working with the Adams group of White Fang members with Corsic and Finnick and Corsic. I don't remember their names. The other two creepy faunus dudes that we met.
No, I think you got it right.
Is it Finnick and Corsac?
I think so,
Something like
yeah.
that.
I think so.
Okay.
Thing one
But
and thing two.
is with them, and like she apparently, when Blake went to her father and they exposed Ilya's scroll, no one really listened to her as she sort of took the blame because that scroll had a bunch of stuff on Finnick and Corsic, but Ilya took the fall for it because she's working with them, and Blake tells her that this isn't who she is, she needs to quit doing this, but she's sort of dead set in her ways at this point. And Ilya basically tells her that she has to stop, and Blake, being Blake, is like, no, I'm not going to. You're going to have to make me. And they sort of exchange these looks back and forth of basically understanding each other. It's like, you're going to have to force me. And the other one's like, well, yeah, I know. Even though I don't want to, you were my friend and everything else. But I'm curious, do you think Ilya will have a change of heart before the end of the volume?
Maybe.
I think in the first spoiler chat we had for Facebook, I think I said something like, she's going to have a change of heart and then die instantly.
Oh,
Type of thing. Be like, okay, I'm sorry, dead.
it's just...
That's what I was thinking when Oh my...
That's so
That sounds so
depressing, but
bad.
that's exactly what's gonna happen, probably.
If
She needs
that
more-
happens, that'll be rough.
Blake needs more fire. She doesn't have enough fire, man.
I think she's
What?
got
I
plenty
mean,
of fire by
she's
now.
a redhead,
No,
so
we
it's,
need to
it's
kill
very
more
likely.
things that Blake likes.
We do not need to kill anything
We need
more.
to kill more things Blake likes. That's all RWBY is. Killing things that Blake has fondness for.
They haven't even killed anyone that Blake's like yet, though. They've just hurt
They just-
someone.
Killed everyone else.
They hurt everybody, basically. But
Yeah, they hurt
didn't
people
kill-
close to Blake. They didn't kill anybody close to Blake.
That's what we need. She needs
good point.
She needs the big hit. She's the turn point.
No!
Also, I'd like to point out that, oh no, another plan that Blake had didn't work? How unexpected.
Well, I mean, it hasn't not worked yet. It's just Ilya says it's not going to work. We don't know. We don't fully
Pretty-
even know what Blake's plan is yet, aside from her and her dad trying to take back the White Fang, and they do have some leeway in that regard to like get people on their side. Hopefully,
That's pretty much the whole plan. Just get back as a leader.
yeah. So we'll see how that goes through in the future. We didn't get a whole lot of interaction. We did get to see sort of what Blake's or her father's guard looks like, and that was pretty cool. Odds are there will probably be some cosplay and some images of that before too long. But
Oh, it was really fast, my friend. It was really fast.
I don't doubt it.
It was very
Um,
fast.
But that was basically all we got from Blake and Ilya at this point. So we're going back to, I believe what happened next was Yang's side of the story now. And she is coming through Mistral on her bike Bumblebee, and she's driving through, and we finally got confirmation what she's doing. And we went back and forth on this for so dadgum long on the Volume 4 finale, and I think all of us ended up being wrong for the majority of us, because like there were so many back and forth discussions about, is she going to RWBY? Is she going to Raven? And then after analyzing every like frame by frame, what she says, where it looks like she's going, we came up with the conclusion that she was going to RWBY.
Yeah.
We were wrong.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, my friend. Let me tell you something.
Oh, God,
I
no.
thought the show was retconned. I felt like the show was unequivocally saying she chose Ruby because that would be a part of like her character arc of deciding to not do the dumb thing and do the level-headed thing.
The number one thing, like her saying you were in so much trouble when I find you, was like a little bit of a red herring to me. The thing that I kept going back to was I looked at the animation, exactly which way she turned on the road, and she turned to go towards Haven.
Yeah, I know. It's a complete retcon. That got me so angry because I was like, and this is why I'm kind of down on this episode, is that there are bits like this where it feels like you changed it. This wasn't what you wrote.
Right. So whether or not it's going to be another sort of flip-flop later on and she ends up meeting up with Ruby first before going to Raven, which doubt it. We'll get to see how that plays out, but we start with Yang in sort of like a gas station area, and she's getting water, and this bandit is sitting next to her trying to hit on her. He's obviously been drinking and everything.
He's
but we
labeled
get to
as
see
Shady Man.
Yeah, the Shady Man, which I found out after a few days after watching the episode. The voice actor for that bandit is actually one of my favorite voice actors recently, because he also plays Bakugo for My Hero Academia.
Really?
His name
Yes.
It's a Clifford Chapin.
Yeah, Clifford Chapin.
What?
I didn't know that until Mercury told me, and I'm like, you're full of crap. And I looked it up. Sure enough, I rewatched the episode. I'm like, oh my god, it's Bakugo. I was so surprised and happy at the same time. It's like, finally, I get to watch Bakugo get punched in the face.
I don't really get that reference, but it sounds funny just you saying it.
Bakugo is one of the most... He is written to be a hated character.
Also, this is basically the same person.
Pretty much. He was perfect for the part, and now that, like, I knew that he was at Rooster Teeth not too long ago at one of Rooster Teeth's fan service podcasts, and I didn't even think about him being there to record for RWBY, but obviously this is probably what he was doing while he was there. But yeah, he ended up being this character. He's just a shady dude, and he starts hitting on Yang, and Yang just, like, as Yang
Starts
does,
hitting on him. Hey.
Hits
him so hard he bounces like a rubber ball.
I don't like scenes like that because I cringe visibly at that kind of stuff. But I was like, oh, thank God, she just knocked him out. Like,
the only problem
him.
that I had with that scene is maybe a couple mini two bounces.
No, that was great. That was comical.
It was very comical. It just sort of took me out of the moment for a minute, just because I'm like, I'm still laughing my butt off, but
I think
come on.
that bit got the loudest reaction in the convention hall, other than the bit we'll probably talk about later.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's
laugh.
There's a reason there's not a whole lot to talk about for the rest of the episode. Everything's going to be about the ending, but we'll get to that in a minute. But the impact of Yang punching him, it just felt good for Yang to be... I feel like that was her moment of, like, Yang's back, baby.
I was going to say, it was her return. That's when I was like, red eyes. You know, I was just like, yes, she's back.
Yeah.
You noticed she actually hit him with her new arm as well.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
I think is
Which
pretty cool.
would hurt like a son of a
Which hurts
gun.
even more, probably.
Broke his tooth. His tooth flew out of his mouth.
I didn't see that originally. I had to watch it again. I thought he just
Yeah.
had no tooth the whole time.
Nope, she knocked it straight out. And it makes it even better. But that was when we found out the moment that she's looking... She asked the guy behind the counter that she's looking for Raven Bronwyn. And he obviously knows who she was. And he tells her that she doesn't need to be looking for bandits. Obviously, he doesn't know her relationship. But she goes back outside, and the bandit guy confronts her and tells her that, so you're looking for someone. Obviously, like, he's probably with or knows about that tribe. either as someone who got expelled from it, is looking to join it, or is just another bandit tribe who obviously knows about that tribe. But odds are he's going to lead her towards Raven. We'll see how that plays out in future episodes. But that was really about it for Yang. The big sort of conclusion that we got from Yang's part this episode was she is going after her mom. If they flip it again, I swear to God.
Turns out Raven is a nickname for Ruby, joking.
Yeah.
I need to ask: is the canon pronunciation Bronwyn or Branwyn? Because I've been doing Branwyn.
I think it's Bronwyn because the way that the characters say it, both with
Crow said it, Bronwyn.
And it's Crow's name, so if anything, he knows how to say it.
I'd say if you have to go by anyone, you have to go by how Crow pronounces it. And then Yang also said Bronwyn when she was talking about her.
Yeah, I guess.
So,
I've been pronouncing all their names wrong.
I've said it both ways.
Crow longest time.
I think I once called him Branwen or something like that.
I've said Bronwyn, Branwyn. I've said them both, and I never really stick to one, but I guess now it's going to have to be Bronwyn. But going...
Sounds like Branwen sounds like a cereal.
It does, a little bit. Come get your Branwyn flicks.
God damn it.
Right in the same aisle as you get your whatchamacallits, your something flakes that John eats.
Yeah, the marshmallow
Pumpkin
Pete's.
Yeah, get your brown ones and your pumpkin Pete's.
And your pumpkin Pete's.
Alright, well, going back into a little bit more, we are back at the... I don't know what it is exactly that they're staying at, but Ranger is sitting at a place in Mistral. They're sort of just sitting there relaxing, sort of cutting back, and lo and behold, they get a knock on the door, and it's Oscar. And they've never met Oscar, so they're confused. They ask him who he is, and he says he's looking for Ruby, and they immediately go to, why? Are you here to hurt her? If so, we are going to hurt you.
I'm glad that
then...
Nora was the one that said it as well. Because if anything, she's the one that would actually probably flip out at them.
Oh, yeah. Like, that scene, I'm like, Nora, don't break his legs.
Also,
no, bad Nora, stand down, Nora.
I think you missed they showed the after credit scene from Volume 4 before that.
Oh,
the bar
right.
Scene.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yes, they did end up showing the end, like this, like after credits episode or after credits scene of Volume 4 of Oscar being at the bar meeting up with Crow, and that was being the first time Crow had ever met Oscar, or so he thought. And Oscar reveals that he is Ozpin. And he asked for his cane back. Crow gives it to him and sort of has that little cackle that Crow does. And it tells him it's good to see him again and all that. But a little bit later, we get to where Oscar is at the, I guess, House of Ranger right now.
Everyone's favorite scene.
Yeah, Mother Base.
By far,
best
everyone's. If it's not everyone's favorite scene, there's something wrong with you.
Am I missing something? Which scene are we talking about?
Well,
Really?
hang on.
Really?
We'll get to it in just a sec. But Oscar introduces himself. They're a little bit weirded out. Crow comes in. He's drunk. Like, he's gone.
He's
walks
like,
in,
I found him.
He bursts in. He yells out, I found him. He flops down on the couch. And Ruby comes in and does one of like the best moments for Ruby, I think, of the episode as well, where she goes, what's going on? I was reading my comics, and I love that.
Can't someone read a comic in peace?
Yeah, can a girl read her comics in peace? And
That is totally something Lindsay would do as well.
Oh, yeah,
to be fair.
and I love
just like I think she probably did the mocap for that as well, because it walked and act just like we've seen her
Possibly.
act like on Extra Life and stuff like that.
But one of my new favorite quotes is she looks over at Crow,
Crunk. It's
Pull the lever.
I
It's
was
Crunkle
thinking
Dro.
Crow and Drunk, and it came out Crunk.
Drunkle Crow.
that's what we have to call him from now on. It's
So
Crunk.
is Drunk Crow now Crunk?
Yes.
Okay then.
He's super crunk.
I
And flip turned up.
Oh my god.
but she looks over at Crow, and she goes, "Crow, did you get drunk again?" And I swear, I have done this I don't know how many times in my life. He goes the slow but assured, maybe. And I lost it at that point. I don't think I had to rewatch the scene like 3 times because I couldn't quit laughing through the entire thing. But
I
after
still
that,
after it.
Seeing
after
that,
that
bit
moment,
at Arctic
Oscar-
London was amazing.
what's up?
Seeing that bit at the convention was just amazing. Just
Oh, I bet. Like,
everyone
I-
just jumped up and started laughing, the loudest laugh you'll probably ever hear.
Oh yeah, I was at the theater release that they did, and the theater was gone. Like, I don't think I've ever heard a room in a theater laugh so loudly and for so long, and other than that moment. But going just a little bit forward, Crow is sort of sitting there like, wait for it, as Oscar's introducing himself, and I forget everything he says. Like I said, I was laughing so hard at this. I can't remember everything that he says because every time I go back and watch the scene, I can't help but laugh at it. But Crow's basically like, wait for it, and Oscar says, "You may know me as Professor Ozpin," and Crow
There
just
we
puts
are.
his hand up and it's like, "I did it!" And he falls over, and by this point, I'm already gone. I'm pretty sure I almost busted a gut at that point. But that happens. They're all looking each other like shocked and confused, while Crow's just sitting there on the floor laughing his butt off. And then the episode ends, and the new intro scene starts playing, and I couldn't even enjoy the intro scene the very first time I saw it because I was still laughing at this point. Like, I wanted to see the new intro, and it looked so good and everything, but everyone in the theater when I saw it was still chuckling their heads off, and it was a great time, but we're all sitting there with tears in our eyes from laughing so much. And the intro plays, and the intro is fantastic. I love it. I've watched it probably 6 or 7 times now, but
Yep.
I'm curious, now that Oscar is with Team Ranger and everything, what do you think his role is going to be in the next few episodes?
Well, obviously, his role is to confirm the Rose the Garden ship, obviously.
Yes.
Also, he said his name's Oscar Pine, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Oscar
He
Pine.
said
Does
it's
that mean
Oscar Pine, but
If
he
Ruby,
said you may
if
know
Ruby
me
leaves,
as...
does that mean that Juniper is back together because P?
Yeah, there's a whole comic about that.
See,
Yes!
I actually, I thought, I was thinking of this the other day, but if that's actually not the case, if you actually want to be more precise, it could technically be Team Orange.
Yeah, I guess
so.
ORRNJ.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah?
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's probably.
I don't know
works as
what
well.
like the fandom is going to assume the new team is. That's sort of what I came up with, and what I'm probably going to be sticking with until it's more realized. Like, I remember it taking a while for people to catch on to Ranger. So odds are the same
Junior.
thing will
Aldrich
probably happen
Junior,
with
man.
this.
It's
No.
Ranger.
I'm an
wouldn't it start?
unabashed
Ranger
John
green is a color.
We're not doing this now. We'll argue for hours. Oh my god.
Plus, even the creators of RWBY have listed it as Ranger.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Canon.
Once it's been listed, it can't be changed.
Nope.
Unless it's on Wikipedia.
The RWBY wiki though is like, if anything gets changed on there, like, people would immediately change it back. You don't mess with the RWBY wiki. That's like
Well,
one thing you don't
someone
mess
had to
with.
go. Someone had to go back and change it. That Yang went to find her mother instead of Ruby. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
sorry, fandom. We gotta change the plot real quick. Wasn't working out.
Well, we
It-
definitely
it's
got some fantastic scenes from this episode, as I don't think there wasn't anything after the intro sequence, was there?
No. It's,
No.
Okay.
The Rooster Teeth stuff.
I don't think so. No.
I couldn't remember if there was or not, because like it's been a couple days since I've seen it, which I meant to rewatch it earlier today, but I was just so busy getting this set up, and I still didn't get everything right. But hopefully next week will be a little bit better. But
I
we
literally
got
watched it
some
about 5 minutes
fantastic
before
scenes. The interesting thing that I noticed that some people were bringing up is this is the first time a volume has introduced with 0 fight scenes.
Is that true?
That did
Yeah,
disappoint me
that
a little
is
bit.
true. That is very true.
Okay, wait, no, hold on. Okay, so the first one was the dust store. Volume 2 was
The food fight.
okay,
food
food
fight.
fight, right?
Volume 3
third
was the arena,
Two-
the Vital Festival.
Volume
Okay,
4 was the
and-
Geist.
It was. Oh my god, you're right.
Yep.
Unless you count Crow fighting with Soberness.
Hey,
Hey.
hey.
The
I guess
only
not.
thing that people can say is even a little bit of a fight is Yang's one punch.
Okay, no, there we go. That's the fight.
There we go.
There we go. We've got a fight scene.
We got a fight soon.
Yeah,
Not like
I don't-
the other ones.
That's not really a fight. That's just a knockout.
It was a one-sided fight, but it was a fight.
That's like saying the fights in One Punch Man are fights.
They are
I've seen
fights.
Hey,
MMA
There's only
matches
one
that last
actual
hard,
fight in
so-
One Punch Man. That's the
God.
final one.
There's a fight.
But anyways,
Do you wanna-
without a big fight scene, I should say. So that was, I think, an interesting way to actually bring the volume in. I think at this point, everyone, for the majority, knows what RWBY is and is invested at this point. And they're like, the fight scenes were obviously a big way to bring new people into the show. But RWBY has become so big that I feel like they don't need to do that anymore. And I'm glad that they actually chose
Lies
the
and
direction that they
slander.
did.
I mean,
As
even if they did, who starts at Volume 5? Not 1. Or 2, maybe.
Well, the reason, like, for so many issues going forward, and you guys might agree with me on this, but getting people into RWBY is one of the hardest things in the world because of volumes 1 and 2.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
I have
Like,
shown
everything
people
beyond
those
that
volumes.
is fine. But you have to watch volume 1 and 2 to understand what's going on. And that was, like, even though Monty is a genius and I love everything he's ever done, like, he was one guy animating an entire show.
Well, I think
That's
a few little
ridiculous.
people involved.
There was, like, Shane Newville. I forgot about him as well. But the team has literally, like, times it by, like, maybe 30 is what they have now. And...
So 30. I'm
or
joking.
more, who knows.
I know.
30 sounds about right for a Rooster
They
Teeth animation.
like the original team only consisted of Miles, Carrie, Monty, Shane, and I think like one other guy.
Maybe Gray, because he was in animating as well.
I'm not sure if he was there for Volume 1.
He was.
Was he?
Yep.
No, because he was in, I think he was in Red vs. Blue, so.
You know,
Yeah,
what
I don't
we can
know.
do?
I don't
We
know
can
if they
check.
had him working on RWBY stuff at least.
Yeah.
Like he may have been on the team, and like I think he was a big deal of Red versus Blue and all that. But I don't. I think like as far as the RWBY team, there was only a maximum of 5 or 6 people, and to even have the show that they had is still insane. But to tell people it's like, don't worry, it gets way better at Volume 3, is tough.
It's just getting to that bit.
It's the Steven Universe effect. Yeah, it gets better once you get to episode 58.
I think the best way to get people into RWBY is instead of having them watch episode by episode on Rooster Teeth or whatever, you almost have to show it to them in like a DVD format where it just plays one episode starting with the next one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't show
bulk.
the intro sequence every single time because the episodes back then were only like 6-7 minutes tops.
And then
And
there's
a
like
minute
2-minute
of that
intro.
was the intro sequence. So, like, you really got to watch it through in bulk but it's not just bulk, because I mean I've binged watched RWBY I think 8 times now, with certain episodes being way more than that. But in order to get new people into RWBY, you have to sort of bulk watch those early volumes. Later on, you're fine, but once they get past that initial sort of volume set, it becomes a lot easier to get people invested into the show, and it makes me curious if they're ever. I think they would honestly get a lot of backlash for it. But if they ever decided to maybe remaster the first 2 volumes,
I think they'd have to do that a lot longer down the line if they was going to.
I think so too. But
Like
I think
either near the end or at the end, so that you
Right.
can be like, oh yeah, here's volume 1 when it looks better.
I was gonna say, even like after they finish it, they could remaster it. That way, they're not doing 10 different things at once. They can just focus on remastering that certain part.
I mean, Rooster Teeth have got so many shows now that it's probably kind of hard to do it at this exact moment.
I think
Obviously.
it would be more of an issue as like the fan base, at least the old timer fans, the ones who've
People
been
that have
around
been there
since the
since
early
the very
days.
first.
They would have such a problem with it because to a lot of them, and still a lot of them now, think that RWBY isn't as good because it's not as Monty involved and everything. But like the show has gotten better, you have to admit that. And there have been things like
animation-wise.
Monty didn't just stop writing it at volume 3. He's written the main plots of the story, he's said himself, up until like volumes 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I
That
mean,
means we
it's
could be
not
friends for 5 more years.
it's not like Rooster Teeth and Miles and Carrie like taking over RWBY. It's like the main course of the story was still there, written by Monty. They're just animating it differently than what he would have. And yes, I admit the fight scenes are not as smooth and fluid as they used to be, but when you sit there and are having to watch frame by frame of things, they weren't as impressive as what you would probably want. Like, they are so much better looking now, and the only reason they did well back then is it was so fast. And it sort of blurred a lot of the issues with it, because as someone who goes back and has to, like, take individual screenshots of frame-by-frame images to get reference images for models and props and things, and seeing all of the issues with the animation from back then, it's a little disheartening.
Well,
You see a lot of
feel like-
clipping with things, and it's...
Well, there's that, but I feel like the things I liked from the older volumes when Monty was animating them was that the fight scenes, there was problems with them in terms of the animation, but there was a flow to them that I don't feel like the newer ones capture as well. Like there was a point to point you could follow with those fight scenes, and in the newer ones it feels a little bit more how do I say it? It's not that it's streamlined, but it feels like we're going from a dot to another dot, but it's not clear how we get from one to the other.
Okay. Well, I could definitely understand that, and I definitely get that. Like, the fight scenes from the early volumes are what got me invested into RWBY, period. The Red trailer is one thing I still go back and watch all of the time, just because I love Monty's fight style, but it was a different style, for sure. I can't say one is better than the other, because I like them equally as well. It's just, it may not be the same, and a lot of people, I can understand why they feel like it's different, but no one... The way that Monty animated, knowing that he did it in Poser and everything else, as someone who knows that program, the dude was insane.
Yeah.
No one could do that on Poser, other than him. He was literally the only person I have ever seen to be able to do that kind of stuff through Poser.
Yeah.
Like, it's
a-
not just something you could replicate. So they had to do something.
Yeah, I just feel like they need to work on their choreographing. That's just all. I think
Okay.
otherwise it's much more impressive.
I could agree with that for sure. But I think that's basically everything over the initial parts of the episode, all of the stuff that we noticed and everything. So I'm going to go now into just a few minutes talking about theories that you guys have going forward, with just what you think is going to happen in the next few episodes, or what the big climax for the volume is going to be. And I'm going to start with Cinder on that.
I mean, seeing in the opening sound music thing, I don't even know what it's called, opening credits, let's call it that, that it's got Mercury and Hazel are in it again, like in the opening credits.
Okay.
So I'm thinking Mercury is going to have something quite important to do, like Cinder's going to tell him to do something, maybe take out RWBY or anyone from Ranger. And obviously they see a bit of a fight scene with Nora and Ren attacking Hazel, which is pretty cool. And somebody mentioned, I don't know whether this was an admin or someone else mentioned, that even though he pretty much looks like a human, he has like marks on his arms, and someone said maybe that's something to do with the furnace.
Which character?
Hazel. I don't know whether it was just someone making something randomly up, but he has like marks on his arm. It could just be from when Ren scratches him with his weapon, obviously, but
It could just be tattoos.
or tattoos. Yeah, it's just a theory that I saw that I thought I could bring up.
Okay. Oscar, do you have anything?
In the opening, you see Yang and Mercury. And I'm like, ooh, rematch. I want to see a rematch this season. I'm hoping to see a rematch this season. It'd be a good rematch.
Okay. Now, bringing that up, a rematch between Yang and Mercury, I feel like they almost sort of set that up perfectly, because Mercury has the robot legs, and now Yang has the robot arm. So I feel like they sort of did that on purpose. And I definitely agree with you guys. Like, the Mercury return with fighting Yang, I'm not sure how they're going to work that into the whole, like, Yang going after Raven and everything else. I guess we'll just have to see. But I'm not too sure Yang's going to be too happy to see him again.
I mean, unless Mercury goes to find Raven as well because of their maiden.
True.
Because think about it, because Emerald and Mercury did originally go with Cinder to get Autumn or Fall.
Right.
Whatever, I forgot her actual name. I just remember that.
That is a good point. So I guess that will sort of tie in together. But Oscar, was there anything extra you wanted to add, or just the reunion?
That rematch, I'm really excited about. That's the main theory that I'm going with this season.
Okay. And Whitley, what about you?
Well, clearly, Pilot and Guard are going to get together. And we already have confirmed ship of Yang X Mercury from the intro, so I'm excited for that.
Everyone with everyone else.
Yep, my ships are all lining up, and I gotta start crossing out other ones. But to be serious though, for a second, I thought the last season was setting up kind of where everyone else was in the world, and for that it was a little bit more boring. It was a little bit more just getting our feet wet with the new kind of style. But I feel like now we kind of know, okay, everyone has a goal, everyone has somewhere they're going, and right now it's kind of up in the air for me about where people are going to end up. But they got me. I'm interested. I want to know where everyone's hook's going to land.
Okay. I think for me, the biggest things that I guess I'm thinking about going forward into the volume is another thing that was seen in the trailer, or not the trailer, the intro, is this is going to be the volume where I'm not sure how yet, especially with Blake. Blake is the biggest one that's up in the air for me right now, but another thing that was brought up beforehand in a talk with, I think it was Miles or Carrie 1, is Volume 4 was about breaking everybody up, and Volume 5 is going to be bringing everyone together. And we got to see the scene where all 4 girls are standing next to each other against Salem, and I'm not sure if that's sort of foretelling of what's going to happen in the volume itself, as I can definitely see RWBY, Weiss, and Yang joining up, but I'm not sure how Blake sort of joins in with that group, as she sort of stated that she's staying in Menagerie to deal with the problem there, and everyone else is in Mistral.
So I'd like to propose... Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, I don't know, like, I think Vengeance is gonna play out, and she may or may not go after Adam again.
We don't know where Adam is, do we?
Yeah, we don't, but I guess we'd have to figure out from a general point of, like, where they're gonna hit next, I guess. I think the only way I can see Blake kind of getting there within this season is if we're going with Ilya's prediction and the plan falls through, then Blake has to go to Haven because they have some sort of information that whatchamacallit, Adam's there, and they're gonna use that to, like, Adam's gonna be the proof we need to sway the rest of Menagerie to fight alongside us and forsake the White Fang.
Okay. Well, we've all got definitely interesting thoughts going into the volume coming up, but what we're going to do next is actually have a section of this stream set for Q&A with you guys, the ones watching the stream right now, the fans of RWBY Nation. If you guys have any questions for us, the admins, you can leave them in the chat. I am keeping an eye on it, and we will try our best to answer them to the best of our ability. Obviously, no spoilers from episode 2. If you have seen the episode, if I see them, you're getting removed. So far, everything's been fine up to this point, so
There's been a few
don't break that streak.
But, like, obviously no actual spoilers.
Right. But, so if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask us or anything like that, just let us know.
What was...
Matthew, what was your Oscar theory? I'm not sure if I saw it. Were you the one with the Oscar is the Dorothy type character for the team? I can't remember if that was you that posted in the VPs. I can't remember everybody, as not all of the admins see every day's VPs. Yes.
Yeah,
Let me...
So we did talk about this a little bit earlier about the possibility of Oscar being Dorothy, as we've got the Wizard of Oz being Ozpin, Scarecrow, Leo, and Glenda Goodwitch. But we're still not for sure on if Dorothy would be represented through Oscar. There's definitely some similarities, but I think we agree that we're just going to have to end up seeing more to determine that for sure. What do you guys think?
I think it would be pretty cool, because it will add more to him than just he's Ozpin Mark II, and he just has to be there type of thing. So if he has an actual more importance, I think it would be really cool. Personally.
Okay.
So I'm thinking maybe more, if there was a Dorothy, it would be one of Team RWBY. Just because they're the main characters.
So why don't we break it? Why don't we break it down then? Of, like, what would a Dorothy type character's role be in the story, based on what her role is in Wizard of Oz?
I don't know. Maybe, like, it definitely could be Oscar. The more that I think about it, as Dorothy is seen as, like, the character who sort of brings everyone together to sort of complete the goal. Like, she's the one who has the hope.
She's the one that rallies the troops.
So, if anything, by them character traits would be RWBY.
Yeah.
Yeah, by that specific trait alone, it would definitely be more RWBY than anyone. But I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, I think multiple characters could have like multiple influences and everything else like that. As I think there are some other characters that have that as well. But going into the next question, what ship do you all hope takes off on the show?
Okay, this is just a joke ship, but that nobody else ships that I've seen is just Cinder and Nora, just because I love Nora. I know that would never happen, so I would
I'm
say
curious,
Renora.
Is there a name for that one?
No, I'm pretty sure there isn't.
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure there is. Let me open up the RWBY official ship chart
Somebody
from Reddit.
jokingly called it Fallen Pancakes in Discord once, and I just laughed my head off at it. So,
I feel like with Cinder ships,
It's
though,
never gonna
there's
happen,
everything
obviously.
always involves fallen something. So there's got to be something more creative than that. Maybe like burnt pancakes.
no,
I like
that's
burnt
not
pancakes.
an actual ship. I don't actually ship that. It's just a funny joke I keep saying.
All right, Oscar, what about yours?
I have two.
All right.
Oh god.
Crowpin,
Oh boy.
Rose
that one?
Garden.
What's the crow
Uh,
one?
Crow and Ozpin.
Oh god. No, if I had a serious answer, I would say Renora, but it's pretty much confirmed anyway.
Wait, does Crowpin still apply even though Ozpin is now Oscar?
Oh god.
Oh,
No.
I don't
Okay.
I don't
No.
ship so much anymore.
Just making
plenty
sure.
of comics if you want that.
Fun fact, somebody actually asked me to ask a question about that on the RTX panel, but I don't know whether I'm allowed to say the question here, 'cause it's sort of not PG.
Whitley, what about your crazy ship? Whitley?
Oh, sorry. Whew, you shocked me there. Yes, the shipmaster, what ships he wants.
Oh god, no. We won't be in
As
the
I
world,
have
guys.
said multiple times to people, I ship everything and anything. So any ship is good for me. But I will always have Arcos in my heart. It is a submarine that will surface one day. But if that is not gonna happen, I will choose Lancaster. Because Lancaster is the best of all.
Right then.
Or what was the other one? Dark Knight. Dark Knight's great. I love crack ships like that one. Dark Knight is Blake X John, because I love John.
Okay,
Um,
then.
I mean, it's not as bad as my one.
I know I'm not the outlier as far as on the page, but a lot of people know me as the person who doesn't really ship a whole lot. But my thing is, whatever ends up happening, I accept to a degree. I may not agree with it, but I at least won't fight about it. But
Yeah.
I guess one that I would most likely see more than anything is, since Renora has basically already pretty much happened, that would have been my whole pick, but now it's more towards I think it will end up with crap, who can I say and no one get mad at me for?
No, it's okay. Feed on that anger. That's how you ship. If people don't hate your ship, it isn't a real ship.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I'm sort of on Black Sun.
Oh yeah, there you go.
There you go.
I don't know why. I know a lot of Bumblebee fans are gonna hate me for that.
Wait.
I could also
You
see
didn't hear that?
Bumblebee happening though. If either one of them happens, I'm perfectly content. I'm not gonna be angry just because one happens and one doesn't. Like,
Do you
but
hear
I
that? Or-
plausibility, I see Black Sun happening more than Bumblebee at this point, at least. That could change.
What? Do
So
you
you
hear
could
that?
die.
That noise? That irritating. Oh no! It's the buzzing. The buzzing is coming for
Yeah,
you,
I
Watts.
know.
Run!
But
But no, that's a fair ship. I think
did-
that's the most controversial ship in RWBY.
I know.
Definitely. Other than
And it's gonna get me
the
in
ship
trouble
that
later.
cannot be named.
Well, that's controversial for a different reason.
Yeah. Should we go on to the next question?
Yes.
After we can put ships all night.
How do we think Raven and Yang are going to interact once they butt heads?
Fight, 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 hug, hug, hug.
Above it.
I think it's gonna be fight, train. I think she's gonna train her.
That could be good.
I
Actually.
don't know. That would be pretty cool.
I feel like
But,
it because oh wait, I can't say that because it's episode 2.
Yeah.
Dang it! Oh, crap,
You'll
this
have
is
to
gonna be
ban
hard.
yourself
You're
from
in
the stream.
trouble.
I can't say what I was going to say, otherwise it would have been a huge spoiler.
I'm telling Pyrrha.
Close. We almost ruined it on the
I
first
know,
one.
I almost broke my own rule. Glad I
Um,
caught myself. But I think as far as with Raven and Yang, it's going to be, I don't know if Raven is immediately going to accept her or for her right away, and whether or
No,
not
definitely not.
Yang is actually like going to accept that she's not accepted. I think there's going to be more confrontation than embracement.
I think it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to see what's going on with that. Like in the future.
Complicated.
And I guess we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Do you think RWBY will learn more about her Silver Eye power this volume? And if so, how?
Unless she actually fights Salem, I would say no. I don't
Okay.
know why.
So you don't think if it's just Salem, you don't think if maybe she saw Cinder again it would happen?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to
Alright.
say yes. That's just me.
Okay. There's not a whole lot to go off of for that right now, just because we've only literally seen it once.
Then that might
So-
not even be it. That might just be something
Yeah.
that happened.
I don't know. I have a feeling that if it happens, it'll be with Cinder, and that's just because she'll remember Pyrrha.
Okay.
Or it would be with the other maiden.
And then it'll be like a trigger, almost. I think that's what's gonna happen.
So for this question, are we discussing whether or not we're going to see it again, or whether or not we're going to learn more about it?
Or how we
Whether or
think-
not we were going to, well, learn more about it, but I guess that's also could count as seeing it.
I don't think we're going to see it again, but I would at least hope that we learn a little bit more about how it works, or someone training RWBY a little bit more about how to use it. Maybe we see Oscar kind of training her a little bit more about how to control it, since he probably knew her mother or something. I'd like to at least know a little bit more about, like, what is the power set? How does it work? Is it just
I'm sure there'll be a word of Remnant on it one day.
Oh, hopefully.
Well,
With Uncle Clay talk about it.
it looks like our at least final question right now is, what are your thoughts that Ironwood is based off the woodsman from the Little Red Riding Hood? And if that is true, who do you think will be Big Bad Wolf? And do you think that there is a Granny Rose, and is she alive baking cookies?
Eh,
Any
I
thoughts
thought,
about that?
I
I
have
thought
no
Tai
idea.
Yang was the woodsman.
You
mean,
bring
he
that
lives
up,
in the
but
woods.
I could agree with that fairly well, since we've sort of already sort of agreed that Iron Man is the Tin Man, Tai Yang being the woodsman. If we're going off of the whole like families that everyone sort of has a group that they're a part of, and whereas Juniper is based off of like mythical, or not mythical,
Well,
but
not all myths. One
Uh,
is mythical. The other three aren't. I think.
well, I think
was
they're
it
all
myth?
based on real people, at least in some sense. Like,
He's just
is-
from Mercury as the Tin Man. Brendan, the guy who started, said.
Well, because like Rin is supposed to be based off Mulan, isn't he?
Yeah, Ren
Yeah.
is Mulan. John is Joan of Arc. Pyrrha is someone.
Here is Achilles.
Is she? Yeah, it's Achilles. I either thought Achilles or
Athena.
Athena.
Also, I just googled what Nora was like on the wiki the other day because of the RP chat. I need to be Nora on there, and apparently there's actually a person called Nora who is part of Norse mythology, just like whatever the mythology is for Thor, which is pretty cool.
Nice. What's her story?
I have no idea. I just saw a name. It said it was like something Nora.
Well, going back to sort of the groups and who they're based on, Team RWBY is sort of the most spread out, but they're still, I think, mostly based on old fantasy characters, like with Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Goldilocks, and I can never remember who Blake's based off of.
Apparently, it's
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. Okay, I could see that. But yeah, they're all older fantasy type characters. And with Tai Yang being Ruby and Yang's dad, him being the huntsman, I think makes a lot more sense.
Though technically the huntsman should be Crow, because Crow is the one who saved them from
yeah.
True, but I guess just with Crow being more fitting into like Ozpin's group than anyone, because I don't even think like Tai Yang probably knows about any of this.
Well, I want him to. I really want him to, but he doesn't seem like the type.
But yeah, I think we're sort of in agreement on who Ironwood is. I guess the last part of that question is, do we think there's a Granny Rose?
Probably not.
If it would have been anyone, I would assume it was probably Summer. And is she still alive baking cookies? No, sadly.
No.
Well, I mean, it could be Raven.
No.
I mean,
Yang's looking for
No.
What
your
makes you
mom.
think you even talk to
No.
it?
I had no clue who Raven's based off of. It could be Attila the Hun for all I know.
I'm just going to assume it's the Raven. I don't know why, because she dresses like a Nevermore, sort of. And what does the Raven say?
Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, like the Edgar Allan Poe story.
Nevermore.
I think I missed a couple of questions. All right, our thoughts on how Team Ranger will develop this volume.
So there'll be a nice corner that they'll be sitting in, and they won't move from such corner as Ruby and Crow and Yang and Blake go and have their adventures.
God damn it!
I love Juniper. I think I've always liked. I personally always liked them more than Ruby, but like I think we need more time with Ruby.
Okay. There's not. I think we've talked about it probably enough for this episode, but Ranger is definitely going to have to see some big improvements, especially now that Oscar is there as well as the whole what everything is going on at Haven Academy with Leo is going to happen. So there's going to be a lot of progression there. There's just not a whole lot to go off of just yet, but I think and this is probably going to be our last question for today's episode. Let's see.
I mean, we've got 2 questions there.
Let's
see.
I think Kenan maybe. The whole Yang grabbing glass.
I don't even know what that is.
Send it to me, maybe I can decipher it.
Jumping ahead, who do you think the headmaster of Shade Academy in Vacuo is based on, assuming he or she is based on a Wizard of Oz character?
Who's left?
There's not many left.
What is Shade like? Like what tradition is it in?
Shade's the one in the desert.
The desert one.
Oh. Okay.
I don't
Shady
know who's
place.
left.
Ah.
I have a really silly idea. What if it's just a shadow character? Because shade, shadow. So, hey.
That's
That was just a fun
perfect.
joke.
That's exactly what it is. There's
It's
no
ju-
reason to not. be.
It's actually shopkeep.
My God.
Oh my god.
All right.
my
Well,
All right,
No,
here are all
I
the
think-
characters. We have Dorothy. We have the Wizard, Scarecrow, Tin Man, Coward the Lion, Glinda Goodwitch of the North, the Wicked Witch, Auntie M,
Ayo.
Uncle Henry, Winged Monkey, Toto, and that's it.
I'm not sure it's gonna be Toto.
why.
And maybe
I don't know.
I have the feeling we're not in Remnant anymore, guys.
Well, there's not a whole lot to really talk about that. We know nothing about Shade at this point, so trying to guess what kind of character they'd be, it'd literally just be like slapping a name on them for no reason.
yeah.
True.
So I think that is actually going to do it for today's episode. So thank you guys, all of you guys who have watched this first time we've ever done a live discussion like this over Volume 5, Episode 1. If you enjoyed this type of thing, please let us know, as we will be doing this again next week on Sunday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then the week after that, we will be back to the same time as today at Saturday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we'll swap back and forth every other week to get some different admins in here, as well as some of you guys out there that want to watch. I know there are plenty of overseas fans that we have, and that's awesome. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to be able to watch these. And if you have someone who would like to watch these and we're not able to be here for the live edition, these will be uploaded not only to our Facebook page, but also our YouTube page after they're done rendering and all of that. So you can show them that afterwards. But thank you guys all for being here. My voice is starting to leave me now, but thank you guys, admin Cinder, Oscar, and Whitley, for joining me on this first time ever doing this. And I hope you guys enjoy this type of thing. Like I said before, it's something I've wanted to do. It's different than the podcast that we used to do. And I enjoy doing this setup a little bit more because it allows us to talk directly with you guys. So it's definitely better in my eyes, but I'm curious what you guys think about it. But thank you everyone for watching, and the admins who are joining me, Cinder, go ahead and say your goodbyes.
See you next time, guys. Have a good one.
Oscar
Thank y'all for having me.
and Whitley.
Boy, do I love this blue apron box that I received
Damn it.
from being on the podcast.
No,
You can
that's
get
not
your
how this
blue
works.
apron box by using promo code STC on your purchase today.
God damn it.
All right. On that note, I'm Admin Watts of RWBY Nation. Be sure to like our Facebook page if you haven't already done so, and we'll see you next time.